Have you ever just looked at a news story about an auction and thought, how? How is that even possible? We're talking about things selling for tens, even hundreds of millions of dollars. Well, today, we're going to dive right into that crazy world of high-stakes auctions and try to figure out what makes something priceless, or, at least unbelievably pricey. Just look at this number for a second. That's $450.3 million. No, that's not the GDP of a small island nation. That is the price someone paid for one single painting at an auction. It's Leonardo da Vinci's Salvator Mundi. And yeah, it is the most expensive artwork ever sold. Insane. And that really is the big question, isn't it? How on earth can one object, one thing, be worth that much money? What's the secret sauce? Is it history, rarity, pure genius? Well, it's a mix of all three, so let's break it down. Okay, first up, let's talk about the power of a good story. Because sometimes an item's value has almost nothing to do with what it is and everything to do with who owned it, who touched it, what it represents. You're not just buying an object, you're buying a piece of history. And what better example than this one? This is, of course, the dress, the one Marilyn Monroe wore in the 7-Year Itch. That single image of her standing over a subway grate, it's one of the most famous moments of the entire 20th century. You're not buying a piece of fabric, you are literally buying that moment in time. And the story just keeps getting better. This dress wasn't just a movie costume, it was the center of some real-life drama. Apparently, Marilyn's husband at the time, the legendary Joe DiMaggio, absolutely hated it. That little bit of conflict of human drama just adds another layer to its legend. And it wasn't a fluke. Look at the dress she wore to sing Happy Birthday to JFK, another moment that's gone down in history. In 1999, it sold for just over $1 million. Fast forward to 2016, almost $5 million. That's the power of a great story paying off literally as an investment. Okay, let's move on to our second pillar of massive value, pure, simple, absolute rarity. We're talking about when something isn't just old or special, but it's genuinely one of a kind. There are no others, and there never, ever will be. Check this out. It's the British Guiana 1-cent magenta stamp. It's the only one of its kind known to exist from when it was printed back in 1856. It sold for a cool $9 million. And the story goes that the new owner, shoe designer Stuart Weitzman, just casually tucked it into his back pocket after he bought it, just so nobody would make a big deal. Incredible. Now, to really blow your mind, that stamp weighs just 0.04 grams. Think about that. The value packed into that tiny, tiny piece of paper is just astronomical. It might be the ultimate example of concentrated value on the entire planet. Rarity can also mean being the first, and this is the flowing hair silver dollar from 1794. This was the very first dollar coin ever made by the US government. Because you can't replace that, because it's a foundational piece of American history, the best surviving example went for a staggering $10 million. All right, our third pillar. This one's a little more abstract, a little more subjective, but man, is it powerful. We're talking about perceived genius. This is when we enter the world of legendary artists and the breathtaking prices their work can command. And in this world, the prices are just on another level. I mean, you've got a work by a master like Georgia O'Keeffe going for over $44 million, which is already incredible. But then look at the jump. $90 million for a David Hockney. And then all the way up to $142 million for a Francis Bacon. See, this isn't just about how well they could paint. It's about their name, their influence, their legacy. It's the market deciding what genius is worth. But again, the story behind the art adds so much value. This Picasso masterpiece, which sold for almost $180 million, was actually part of a whole series he painted right after his biggest rival, Henri Matisse, passed away. It was Picasso's strange way of honoring an artist that Matisse himself deeply admired. And this quote from Picasso, talking about another artist he looked up to, it just says it all. That bastard, he's really good. That's what it's all about, that mix of fierce rivalry and deep respect. It's a kind of thing that fuels these timeless creations. It's genius recognizing genius. So, what happens when you get an incredible story, absolute rarity, and perceived genius all wrapped up in one single item? Well, that's when you reach the very top of the mountain, the summit of the auction world, where the prices just, well, they defy all logic. At the very top, you find things like these. A 1955 Mercedes-Benz, one of only two ever made, that sold for $144 million. And then, of course, the painting we started with, the Salvator Mundi. At over $450 million bucks, it's just in a league of its own. But here's the real kicker. Sometimes a little bit of controversy can actually help. Even though some of the world's top experts have vouched for the Salvator Mundi, there are still whispers and doubts in the art world about whether it's a real Da Vinci or not. And that debate, that mystery, only adds to its mystique and, weirdly enough, its value. So what have we learned? The most expensive things on Earth get that way from this powerful cocktail of ingredients. They need an unforgettable story, they have to be incredibly rare, they're tied to perceived genius, a little dash of controversy doesn't hurt, and finally, they become famous just for being expensive. Which leaves us with one last thing to think about. As these prices keep going up and up, we have to ask ourselves, at some point, are people buying the actual object for what it is? Or are they just buying the fame and the status that comes with owning the most expensive thing in the world? What are we really buying?